Hello everybody and welcome into the greenhouse on this beautiful bright and sunny day. I am JT Bear and welcome to How to Aquaponics. For a lot of my regular viewers, we're going to be covering a lot of material here that I have gone over a few times, but I have had a request to give kind of a basic walkthrough. And I've been thinking for a while that since my system has evolved to where it is now, I really should give kind of a walkthrough on what I feel after almost 4 years a basic aquaponic system really does need, because we've all seen what I think you can get away with. So let's get started. So first off, we have the question of what is aquaponics? Basically, aquaponics is using fish to grow plants. Okay, pretty straightforward. In a slightly more detailed description, aquaponics is a form of hydroponics where chemical fertilizers, or at least basic chemical fertilizers, are replaced by elements of nature, beginning with the fish, moving through a microbacterial process, and resulting in the plants having a natural fertilizer that they really, really love. The main components of your aquaponic garden should include a fish tank, obviously. It should include at least one stage of settlement tank, swirl filter, solids filtration, whatever you want to call it. And I think that should come directly off of the fish tank. It should include a sump tank, which in this case gets water from both the solids filter and the grow bed, but we'll get into the flow in just a minute. It's going to need some sort of biofilter, and obviously it's going to need somewhere for the plants to grow. In the case of this garden, my garden bed is the biofilter and takes care of pretty much all I need. To kind of follow the water flow here, there is a Laguna 400 gallon per hour pump that has served me well for 3 years. Money very well spent. It's more of an investment than spending at this point. And it comes up to a T in the pipe where if I have too much water flow, because it is a pretty big pump, I can send a little off to the side there and not have it interfere with the rest of my system. The remaining water comes up to another T where it splits between the garden and the fish tank. If we follow it to the garden, it just runs along. I've still got all my insulation on here from winter because we've still got a few frosty nights. And it's released into kind of a shaded corner here because that helps prevent algae buildup. The water travels through here to the end with miles to turtle, and one of the best bell siphons I've ever made. The water goes through the grow media and fills to the top of the standpipe there. And then when the bell is on it, and that is a terrible bell, but it seems to work amazingly well, it'll tick over and start to drain the bed down. Now that the bell has triggered the siphon, you can see just how quickly it's draining that out. Or maybe you can't, I don't know, between the glare and the sunlight and a shaky hand. So half the water coming out of the pump just goes straight into the garden bed, where it falls back into the sump tank and either, recirculates through the garden bed, or if this time it ends up going into the fish tank, then what it does is it travels back, gets turned around, and exits out, headed towards the side of the barrel, because that creates something of a swirl motion and a current inside the tank. Down at the bottom, and I'm not sure how well it's going to show up here, it's either glare or too much shade, but you can see that one pipe that goes up for the drain. And what that does is that lifts the vast majority of the solids from the fish straight up, where it exits out and into the solids filter. Here again, the water is forced into a swirling motion where heavier things go pretty much against the side and down. I've got quite a pile up in there that I really need to clean, but that's a subject for a different video. Much, much, much cleaner water skims off the top and exits through that pipe there, which brings it back to the sump tank and back to the pump. So that's the basic flow of this particular garden. Now, there are a few different grow bed styles to choose from, so let's discuss those really briefly and then we can wrap this up. This bed here that we've already looked at briefly is a flood and drain with a bell siphon that also acts as a biofilter. These are probably my favorite type of bed, and while the bell siphon is somewhat problematic for a lot of people, if you make it right, it's a fantastic thing, and I have yet to find a way to beat it. Now, if you look over here at the Aquaponics, you can see a few different types of garden bed, and we'll look at those one by one. This first bed is currently set up as a media-filled constant flow or constant height garden bed. So this does act as a bit of a biofilter because the water is constantly moving through those pellets and such. But as you can see, the water level stays constant. Now this allows the roots to grow and reach water quite quickly. And as you can see, this kale is responding very well to it. And this pak choi is already starting to recover from the warm water of the other bed. So it is reaching exactly as much water as it needs, no more, no less. So this is a constant flow, so all I've got in there is just a basic standpipe. Water flows over, that's it, that's all. The tote you can see with the strawberries in it here is a much more of a controlled situation. Generally I water this by hand because the only way it drains is through those two little tubes there. This is ideal for plants that don't need a lot of water, and in fact for plants that will die from too much water. Sort of like my lavender was doing in the other one before, but that's old news. For more of a simple setup, these are also that same fill it by hand and let it drain from a little tube type of garden. Some of you know this is my no power aquaponic garden. This is actually the remnants of my original aquaponic garden, kind of recreated, and some of it just reinstated, but it does work. It's not the best, but it works. Finally, in the back here we have a deep water culture bed. These are incredibly simple to set up and basically have just a standpipe in the middle. I'll show you that in a second, just like the first bed over here. So it's a constant height of the water in there, and it goes just deep enough that the plants can almost touch. I only just put these guys in here so their roots aren't going through yet, but you can see in the reflection just how close that water is, and it does touch the bottom of the cup. Let's see if this oregano is touching yet. Not yet, but I bet you in a few days that'll be sticking through. So let's take a look inside this thing. These are fairly easy to make, fairly easy to maintain. Mine the lid just lifts off like so. And then you can see I've turned it just a little bit so I could lower the water level. But that is just a very, very basic constant height drain. Just enough to keep it moist at the bottom of the net cups. Like I say, I've only just made this in the last few days, so my roots aren't coming through yet, but they will be in no time. Alright everybody, well thank you for joining me on this basic how-to aquaponics. I really hope it's been helpful for you. If I have left anything out that you need to know, just always feel free to comment down below. I try to get back to everybody personally and as quickly as I possibly can. So, yeah, I hope this has helped, and happy gardening and many happy harvests to you all. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Bye.